Hi, I'm Avalon Starlight, and you are listening to the Rebel Unicorns podcast. This season, we are diving deep into what being an empath in business actually looks like. Listen each week as I share tips and tricks to master your empath energy, as well as sharing incredible guests who have created successful businesses by claiming their empath title. Are you ready? Let's get our rebel on. Hello, Rebel Unicorns. I'm not going to lie. My guest today and I just spent 45 minutes laughing, so I can't attest to how serious this conversation is going to be before jumping on to record. However, this human is a powerful channel and energy reader. She is here to really support women in getting super clear on how to use universal laws and spiritual laws to stand in their sovereignty and to step into their power. And she is hella powerful and hella brilliant and bright as a fucking supernova. So I am really excited to introduce you to Corrie and Corrigan today on the podcast. Or Corrie Corrigan is fine.
If that's what you always say. I love your introductions. They're always these like kick-ass introductions. So when I did the form to come in here and it asks you for your bio, I'm like, I'm not giving that because you do kick-ass introductions anyway.
I never read those. I'm like, oh, I know about this person. Ooh, let's just talk about that.
Let's just go with it.
So Corrie Corrigan, which is true that I do call you by your first and last name, and no one else here listening needs to. You can call Corrie by Corrie, but to me, it was an immediate, from the time I met you. Did you know you were an empath when we first met?
No. And on a side note, you've actually never called me Corrie, ever.
Never, not from.
No.
Even so, you have to set the scene here, everybody, that you meet somebody, they come into a sales call and you're introduced to them, and as soon as I saw your name, it was an immediate Corrie Corrigan. It was like, hi, let's talk, Corrie Corrigan, and it forever stuck.
Yeah.
Which I can't
imagine. Introduce me to people as that, like even when we're in the group, and you would introduce me as Corrie Corrigan.
Am I the only one?
Yeah. I've had people, like when I was in dental, I've had people that would say to me, I can't believe your name is Corrie Corrigan. Like, that's a fantastic name. But nobody's ever stuck with it through like the whole time I've known them and only called me that. They just comment on how awesome the name is and then they move on.
I like it.
You say it every time.
Every time. And then just before coming on, I learned your middle name was Lori Ann. So then it was Corrie Lori Ann Corrigan. And that was super fun to say out loud and for everybody in the interwebs to hear that.
Yes.
So explain a little bit when we met, Corrie, what were you doing? What was your life at that time?
Oh God, it seems like so far away. So at the time I was in the height of the shit with Cody and his mental illness. And I actually remember I was introduced to you through a friend. And he said, oh, here's this book. This is the book I was telling you about. And he shared with me your Child is Driving Me Crazy book. And then I followed you on Facebook and I kind of watched a little bit. And then you put something out there for a chakra reading. And I was like, I'll sign up. Sure, let's do it. And immediately shit my pants because I was like, but what if it's real? What if she can see stuff? What if she knows stuff? And again, I was in like the height of my stuff with Cody. So I was like, if she can really see that, this is going to be some crazy stuff right here. And I think the first time we were supposed to connect, I fell asleep right before we were supposed to connect. And then when I messaged you, you're like, of course you did. And then the second time we connected, we went through like all of my stuff. You nailed everything. And then I was like, okay, but now what? Like, now where do we go? And so then we just kind of chatted from there. And I ended up doing Chakra Business Academy. And than all the other stuff.
In your life even?
It was like, it was odd because at that point, I was the caregiver, I think, for everyone, everywhere. Like not just Cody with mental health, but like every relationship dynamic I had. And that was one of the things that you pointed out in the chakra reading, was that like, I'm the go-to person for everyone. I'm the caregiver for everyone. I'm the fixer for everyone. I'm the, like, that person for everyone. And you're like, but who's doing it for you? And I was like, oh, that's a really good question. Like, I have no idea. And so it felt like everything was just holding together by this like really thin strand of string, like, because everything was everybody else. Nothing was me.
It's so true. It's so true. And I just really wanted you to say that you owned an ice cream store. That was
I did have an ice cream store. I did have an ice cream store at the time.
so excited that you had an ice cream store because I love ice cream. And I thought, wow, this is so cool to actually be able to work with somebody to support like bringing an ice cream store to life, right? Like to actually give it a personality and things like that. And, but you were not in a good place at the time that we connected because of the fact that you were would you say that would be codependency then?
I think it was codependency on every level, like in every relationship dynamic. I attracted to that codependent place, right? Like if you could offer that in some capacity, I was like, ooh, it's like that shiny object syndrome. I was like, yes,
I'll save you. I'll save you. You need help. Like, I'll save you. So, like,
totally.
So for those listening who maybe have never heard the word codependent, how would you define it?
It's that fixer energy, right? Like that, and I didn't realize it, I don't think at the time, like you almost feel like it is this alluring quality, like, oh, I know things you don't know, and I can help you fix all your problems in the entire world. But the second you don't need me, then I feel like there's something wrong with me because I need to be needed. I needed that interaction, that dynamic. And so then I would just fill it with more people who needed to be fixed.
So it was your identity.
Yeah, totally.
And jumping ahead, just so that, what do you do now?
All of that in reverse. So it's interesting because now I help women come out of that codependency, figuring out where all of your, like those patterns and habits, those things that you're searching for, why are you searching for them? Where do they come from? So that you can have those boundaries and that, like, all of the stuff that I never had back then, where I needed to have all those things, helping people find that for themselves and come out of the codependent relationships and just have a relationship honoring who you are.
And because how long ago was it that we met? Probably 5 years ago?
2017.
Yep. So 4 years ago. So this is like not a long time to go from ice cream store, totally codependent, like completely like trying to fix, to having an online business, supporting women not have those same tendencies. Where in that storyline did you realize that you worked in energy?
We met in 2017, I think, but it was like early 2017, like around now, I think, actually, 2017. And then I left dental in June 1st. I took my Reiki in October, and it was probably not until the following February, so February 2018, where I actually realized what I was doing and how I could control it.
And so I love the story of you stepping into, because I had mentioned to you that you were an empath, right? And I had thrown that word out. You were very resistant to it. You were like, fuck you, I am not an empath. Thank you very much. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Do you remember why you resisted? Because I don't. I'm asking sincerely.
I don't, probably because I didn't. And I think we've actually talked about this afterwards, like now realizing being an empath and realizing all of what I can do and all of the abilities I do have in energy. We've talked about where they all came from in the beginning. And so I think for me, that moment of like having all of this as a child and how it all came to be that it was actually used against me. And, you know, that whole kind of situation, I think that's probably why I shunned it and went, no, you can keep the empath and shove it up your ass. That's not, no, I'm not, that's not me.
Your game, Avalon. I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
In true Corrie Corrigan rebellion fashion, while we were working together, you just randomly came to a call and you're like, yeah, I got my Reiki.
Yep.
Asshole. And I mean that with love, because we've been friends now. Corrie worked with me and for me and through me, and like we've had a very long relationship.
All the things.
So then, like, but you, even when you took your Reiki, you didn't understand the absolute power that you had of utilizing energy. So what was it in when you were just like, oh my God, no, like energy flows out of me and energy flows into me, emotions flow out of me and emotions. Did you have like a pivotal moment? Was there something that just kind of like was like, oh, I get it now?
So there was a couple, but it's interesting because now looking back and when I explain my story and my journey to people, the one major thing and all the things you tried to teach me, the one thing that I actually learned between the time we started working together and when I got my Reiki was really how to just recognize the signs of when something is for you or not. And so when Reiki fell in my lap, it literally fell in my lap and I had no idea what it was. I had never heard about it before. I had never seen it before. I had never experienced, I never had a treatment. I had no idea what it was. But I was like, oh, okay, this is the third or fourth time it's come up. Clearly it's something I need to do. And then I did it in October. I did my level 1. And then I just did Reiki for all the people. And I put it out on Facebook and said, I'm going to do it for free because I just wanted to do it and feel it and like, what is it? And kind of play in it. And when I went back in February to do my level 2, I said to my Reiki master at the time, like, this is the coolest shit in the country. Like I feel things other people are feeling. I'm able to like I physically feel them. And she was like, yeah, no, that's not Reiki. Everybody doesn't get that. Like, and I was like, what do you mean? Because again, because I had never experienced it, I didn't know that that wasn't what everybody does in every capacity of Reiki. Like I just assumed that this was the thing. But I think that moment for me where I realized the energy component was I was in a session with a woman who literally was just doing it because I needed the hours. She very similar to me, had no idea what it was, what it did, what it worked on, nothing. And when I went in my treatment room with her, I started getting like mid back pain, like kind of in between the shoulder blades, to the point where in a 45-minute session, I actually questioned, like, am I going to have to call it before the session is over? Because it was so uncomfortable and so painful for me. And I didn't know, I was like, where is this coming from? I didn't have this problem before I came in here. Like, is it, and I'm trying to do my session while I'm thinking, is it the carpet? Is it because I'm standing uneven? Is it, am I leaning to one side or the, like, what is happening right now? And when I came back out of the room, it went away, it was gone. And so then I said to her, the only thing that really comes through is like, I have this back pain. Do you slouch? do you have a lot of back pain? Like cause I couldn't figure it out. And she's like, nope, nothing. And I said, well, the only other thing is like, where it comes out is kind of in between like your heart chakra and your solar plexus. And this is what these 2 chakras are for and what you carry in these. And then she started bawling. And I didn't know her on a super personal level. So I really didn't, my perception of who she was went against everything I said. I just kind of went in flow of like, these are the things that I'm feeling. And this is what these chakras are for. And this is what is coming through for you. And she's like, it's everything I'm going through right now. It's everything that's happening in my life. And that was that like aha moment where I was like, oh, so it's the stuff that I'm actually feeling your stuff. I'm not feeling my stuff. And then from that moment on, every time I went into a session, I paid attention to what did I feel coming in the room that I didn't have before. And so rather than waiting when I came out of the session to explain to people what I was doing or what I was feeling, I started explaining it while I was in the sessions. And I found that so many people afterwards would message me and go, oh my God, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, I feel so clear now. I feel so great. This is, I haven't felt this good in a long time. And I started to get or feel like people were getting more impact out of coaching while I was doing Reiki than just doing Reiki and explaining it after.
Now, did you ever get to a place where, because that's taking on a lot of emotional energy, Corrie,
Mm-hmm.
to constantly be going in a room, and did you ever find that got overwhelming or made you tired? Or
In the beginning, it did. I got exhausted. And I think actually it was at one of your retreats and we did a heart clearing thing. And you were like, it was about a house. And I remember this like it was yesterday. And you were doing this meditation and you're like, picture your dream house in your dream spot on the beach or in the forest or this, that, whatever. My house was full of people. Like, I could not move in this house. And then you were like, kick everybody out that isn't here for this and isn't here for that, whatever. And then my house was vacant, but it was the first time, like, because again, I didn't really realize I was taking all that energy on and not doing anything or letting it back out. It was probably the first time since I had started Reiki, or really probably since I was born, that I could take a full breath in and out without feeling the weight of, what now I realize is other people's energy that I didn't realize back then.
I love that we're going in this direction, Corrie. Because I think that this is a key piece, because part of being codependent and part of wanting to fix things is we tend to take on other people's energies. And because I think that why I wanted to do this particular season was because I know that there's a lot of what's the word, controversy about the word empath. Right? Because to me, there is, right? You can be hypervigilant, which is the trauma-based response where you were in danger and had to know what everybody was doing. And it could feel very much like, the emotional, experiences of people. There's highly sensitive people who just can pick up all the sensory, but then there is legitimately the act of exchanging energy.
Yes.
And for somebody who does not know that they're doing it, we don't realize that. So in your case, having a child with mental illness, just like I did, that without having any protection in place, we almost became helicopter, but like overly giving, because we could feel what our child was going through. And all I personally wanted was to make it better. What do I need to do here? Well, I used to think to solve the problem I created, I built that. Now he's the little Tasmanian devil. And now I need to make everything better because it's all my fault and all those kinds of things. But I was also really tied to his emotions.
Yeah.
And feeling very responsible for his emotions.
Yeah. And
so would you say that not knowing that you were an empath played a role in all that codependent behavior?
Totally. Because there's that piece of you can feel what they feel, right? Like, you're totally attaching to their energy. And then there's also that fixer energy where you're also 5 steps ahead of where they are. And you're like, if you do this thing, it's going to be this and this and this and this. So you're already yourself creating anxiety for a situation that has not yet happened. And then you become this overbearing, overprotective, I just want to guard you from all of the 7 steps that I know you're about to walk into at the same time, which then of course exaggerates your child's anxiety, which then you feel, which then you go, 14 more steps ahead. And it's that vicious cycle of not only are you feeling them, but then you're feeling and seeing all of the things they're about to enter into if they continue on this path. And then you're creating more anxiety and more emotion about all of that. right? And so then you add in, you're trying to protect them from the outside world and other people and other people's opinions and what people are seeing and not seeing and how people are thinking and feeling about your child. And you're taking on all of those people's emotions and thoughts and feelings. And it just becomes this insane, heavy energy that you're holding on to for dear life every time you wake up and start your day to the time that you go to bed at night.
And you described it perfectly, because as what I was given or gifted in working in the chakras is that we carry that energy in our hearts, right? So it creates like a heavy sponge feeling dragging down our heart because we're carrying that emotion, that responsibility. So taking a deep breath would be the release of that, right? Like no longer having that.
Yeah.
So then looking at, you know, where you are now and knowing that you have the capacity to work with energy, how do you protect yourself or create strong ways in which you don't let that energy come back into your heart or drag your density down?
So there's a couple things I do. So one of the things I do first and foremost is when I feel out of sorts, like when I feel like something's off or I'm starting to feel an emotion like right now that I didn't feel 5 seconds ago or 5 minutes ago, I'll sit into it's a saying I say where I say, disconnect me from any energy that is not mine. Because I want to know, is this my shit or somebody else's, first and foremost, right? Disconnecting me then allows me to then I can immediately go, okay, now keep that energy out of mine. Like don't allow anybody else's energy to attach to me. And then I'll go into that portion of it. If it's mine, then obviously I figure out kind of where it's coming from. But a lot of things that I tell like clients is imagine your private space. So whether that's your room, your home, you know, whatever sacred space you have in your home. And if you don't have one, obviously start there and get one. But you put almost like a protection bubble around it. So wrap it in your favorite color ribbon or whatever thing makes you feel safe, like cocoon that space with loving light energy. And then when you exit that space, imagine you're like, there was a movie where it was like the boy in the bubble and he went around in this like plastic bubble everywhere he went. Imagine you're doing the same thing. So every time you leave your room or you leave your sacred space, imagine you're walking around the world in this plastic bubble of like protection. So yes, loving energy is going to come in that is for the greatest and highest good for you. And you can give that back out, but anything negative that's yours stays in and anything that is negative that is not yours stays out.
And that would be the two major ways that you protect yourself then?
Yeah, those are the two main things I do. Because I think that like disconnecting from other people's energy is a super powerful one, because a lot of the times we don't even know we're doing it. And, you know, like you're standing in the grocery store and two people in front of you is having a fit at the counter about their bill or paying for bags or like whatever. And the person directly in front of you, the mom is stressed out because she's trying to get her groceries done. And there's, you know, maybe a young child grabbing at all the things. And instantly you start to feel overwhelmed and you start to feel anxiety and you start to feel frustrated. It's actually not yours. It belongs to the people in front of you or maybe behind you. So being able to disconnect from that whenever you get that recognition of like, this actually isn't mine, I need to disconnect from that, and then go right into like a protection, wrap yourself in that bubble and keep it out.
So just, I want to kind of like do a timeline with you. So you didn't know you were an empath. You were working in dental and brick and mortar.
Yep.
Learned that you were an empath, immediately was in an energetic business, which entailed you actually being very forthright in the conversation and conversion of emotion through your body and with your clients.
Yeah.
And what are you doing now in your business? Is it the same? Do you still use that level of energy, or have you kind of pulled back, know that it's there, but have shifted into something different?
So I would say pulled back a little bit. So I don't do Reiki as much. So it's not that I don't do it. It just now is one of the tools in the toolbox versus the toolbox. And so now everything I do is mostly coaching, but it is based on your energy. So I am in your energy at the time and I'm feeling like what actually feels good for you. Where are you resisting versus going with it? So sometimes I'll ask people things and there, you know, like you overthink it, right? And you get this a lot too, where people all of a sudden start to think of what is the right answer or what is the thing you want me to say. And as soon as I can feel it energetically that they're doing it, because it almost becomes this like cat and mouse game for me, like energetically. And I'm like, no, that one right there. I want that thought. What were you just thinking? Because that's the one I'm after. And so I still use energy in everything I do. I just don't use it to the same capacity anymore. And I have the awareness now, like, of being able to attach when I want, disconnect when I don't, being able to protect in everything I do. And just because I'm in somebody's energy and I'm, you know, playing in that field doesn't mean I have to carry it around for the rest of the day or for 6 months until I do a heart clearing. Like I can actually disconnect right away, let go of that right away. And I still do the maintenance, so to speak, and do the cord cuttings regularly and the heart clearing regularly, but it isn't, you know, based on every single client all the time anymore.
And do you find it easier or harder to maintain this level of clearing and protection with your own children?
Compared to where I was 4 years ago, 1,000 times easier, 1,000 times. But I think because it's more of the awareness, right? Like I didn't realize I was doing it back then. And so now a big part of it is like, I'll know I'm doing it. I know I'm taking on Cody's energy or Zachary's energy, or like now I have that awareness of this is what I'm doing, which makes it easier for me to disconnect. There's still those, I mean, I'm human, I'm still a parent. There's still those moments where I want to just like wrap them up in bubble wrap and go, nope, you can't, you're not doing that. But I know that I'm doing it. I'm aware that I'm doing it versus like have absolutely no idea in the world what's happening in my life.
I don't know. I think that Corrie Corrigan is, you know, a Marvel character name. And so I can't see you as human anymore. That's it. You are now. You need some lycra and a cape, and it needs to have CC on it. And that's that.
Sweet.
I know, right? But I know personally, I still can, my maintenance for work is so much higher. My boundaries are better. My like for clients and for business and that, but I'm still a little bit of a, I get sucked in. Easy.
I think that that's like a mother thing. I don't think that ever will go away. And so it's interesting because I'll talk to my boys about stuff. And as stuff is coming out of my mouth, I know I've already attached and thought 5 steps ahead of where they're going. And I'm like, and so I'll go, and that, anyways, that's just my opinion. But like in my mind and in my heart, I'm like, please just do what I'm freaking telling you to do already. Like, and it does frustrate me. And I do, you know, still get into those moments where I'll say, are you working yet? Do you have a job yet? Are you doing this yet? Are you doing that? Did you put out the garbage yet? And so I'm still attached to some of the stuff that they're doing. It's just now I'm more aware of when I do it. And like I say to people all the time, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to change it just because you're aware of it. Like awareness itself is a step in the right direction.
I'm just having a thought. They brought me something and I'm going to bring it up.
Do it.
No, I think this is an important one because I remember very vividly, because I think that this is one of your shadow parts of being an empath that I don't think we've ever really talked about. So I'm going to bring it up here, of course, because it's something that
why not?
is one of the ways that it was the shadow of your empath gift was you would let people call you and unload their shit.
Oh, totally.
And even if it was about you, you would receive that and then feel heavy and dense afterwards so that they would feel better.
Well, and it's funny because I actually just had this conversation the other day with somebody. And I said, I remember you and I having a conversation. A very close friend of mine wanted to sit down and have a conversation about how I was not a good friend. And you're like, why would you do that? And I was like, I don't know, because they need to get it off their chest and they need to just like get it out there. And so like, I'm gonna just do it. And you're like, why would you do that? And I remember actually telling this story to somebody recently. And I was like, you actually don't have to. But back then I didn't realize that I didn't have to. I was like, oh, you have something to say? Okay, I'll listen. Part of that, like that codependent, I'll fix things for you was also dump your shit on my lap. And then I'll just take that. Even if it's about me and I think you're wrong, it doesn't matter. And now I'm like, I'm listening to that crap. Forget it.
Exact words was like, why would you choose that for yourself?
Yeah, like
Willingly say, absolutely, let's get on a phone so that you can lower my vibration and make me feel terrible, and you will feel better and I will feel like, you know what I mean?
yes, yeah. And I say to people, like, you know, like the conversation I had the other day, right? I'm like, if I said to you, like right here, right now, hey, Avalon, how about we go for coffee and I'm just going to bash you for 45 minutes and make you feel like shit. You want to do that? Come on, I'll pick you up. Anybody in their right freaking mind would say no. But what happens is people in our lives, they do this sneaky thing of like, well, I just want to tell you how you're not being a good friend to me. It's the same thing. They're saying the same thing. Like, but we sign up. We're like, okay, let's do it. It's that need to like, yes, there must be something wrong with me. I've done something to you and I need, in order for you to forgive me for my wrongdoing, you get to dump your stuff all over me. Sure.
It's the shadow side of being an empath too, because again, we can feel their their whatever sadness, hurt, frustration. And for me personally, as an empath, I thought everything was directed at me anyway. I thought everybody was mad at me or didn't like me. And I went through that experience of just taking on everybody, even if it was about their dad or if it was about their cousin or if it was about their child. I just thought it was always directed at me anyway. So
Yeah.
I thought everybody hated me anyway. So what's one more? What's one more thing you could say about me that I don't already think you think or feel about me?
Anyways, yeah.
Right? Like I'm just like, I already believe the world thinks that I'm a piece of shit. So go ahead.
And
Sure.
for me, it wasn't that I thought people hated me. I just thought it was my responsibility to fix them. So whether you hate me or you just hate your life or you hate your husband or you hate your employer, I have to be the one to fix this. I have to be the one to make this right for you, because who else is going to do it? It's nobody else has that capacity. So I have to.
I think you still do this a little bit sometimes.
Oh, totally. I'll do it to the day I die. Like we're never truly, it's the thing we said 45 minutes before we hit record. You're never done healing. The work never stops. You're never going to perfect it.
I'm like, I don't know, because I can pretty much text you any time of day. I think you sleep with your phone. And
I do, but it's on silent.
I'm like, anytime I need Corrie Corrigan, I pick up my phone and I say Corrie, and Corrie answers. I'm always like, that is fascinating.
But you know what's funny though, is my phone is always with me and it's in my room because I use it to meditate at night. But my ringer has been off for probably 2 years, maybe more. And I say to my kids all the time, if you're dead or dying, don't call me, because I probably am not going to notice. Like, unless I'm physically looking at my phone, I'll never know that you call. And there's a couple times where the kids have needed me. And then, you know, an hour goes by and they're like, we tried to call you 3 times. And I'm like, dead or dying, fine. Somebody else has to take over, because I'm not going to know you're calling. My phone is off. The ringer is off. So unless I'm looking at it, I don't know.
I know. For me, that was a big thing. That is actually a huge boundary for me. Yeah. I also share and teach is taking your ringers off. Turning off notifications on all things so that you're not responding to. That's a huge boundary, not being in reactive response mode and choosing when you go into being in service, because you can't just always be on. I mean, it's just impossible. The nervous system cannot handle being on all the time. I wonder if that's why you crash so hard, Corrie.
I don't anymore, actually, which is interesting. It's interesting. And Emma and I have had this conversation about being a good or bad projector. And I was like, you would be so proud of me, the things that I am a really good projector now. I'm not the same. But like, for me, the energy component of like, if we're having a conversation and my phone dings, I'm going to be thinking about what that is. I'm going to be thinking about if that person is dead or dying. Do they need me? Versus actually just being present in the conversation we're having. And so it's interesting, both from an energy perspective and from that, like that codependent fixer energy. It takes a lot of self-control to go, yeah, you actually don't need me. Like, the world will revolve without me being on top of it all the time. And so it took a lot for me to, like, when I think the first 6 months I did it, I probably checked my phone more when it was off than I did when it was on, to see if I was missing out on anything. But then it's interesting because now if I'll get like an appointment or something and they'll be like, oh, I'll call you on whatever, the 15th of the month, I have to put my ringer on for that period of time so that I don't miss the call I'm waiting for. I will get so frustrated by the amount of text or call, or I'm like, as soon as the call comes through, the ringer goes off, because now I'm used to the silence. I don't actually like the notifications coming through. Oh, this person texted you, or that person's calling. I like not being able to have to worry about that.
So my son leaves his notifications on when he comes over. And I'm like, ding, ding, ding. I'm like, okay, seriously. You actually exist in a world where like people still keep their notifications and dingers on? Is that a thing for real? It's so funny because once you do turn it off, you think that that's just the standard now.
Totally. And I think that because of how much freedom it actually brings, again, it's that 5 steps ahead. We go, do you know how more peaceful your life would be if you just stop that nonsense right there? Like just
now I'm thinking back, this is an awareness. It's like, I would actually take on the emotion of the person who dinged me.
Right.
I would know in that moment. I would, because of the sensitivity, like, and I don't know if you had this, like when people would come over for a call or something, or my first appointment, I was taking on their emotions prior to me even seeing them that day without knowing that it was happening.
Yeah.
And then I was doing the same thing. I'm just like, oh shit, I remember that now. Like if it dinged or that went off, I was immediately, because I wasn't in a place of protection, to becoming a person's energy.
Totally. I remember doing it for like clients. I would wake up in the morning and I'd have a client at, say, 11 or 12 o'clock, and I'd feel something straight up to that call. And then I'd get on the call with the client and I'd go, oh, that was your shit. That wasn't mine. Right. And you're right. Like you don't have that awareness of what's happening until all of a sudden one day you're like, your eyes are wide open and you realize it wasn't even mine. I was attaching to your stuff. And then you just get really good at protecting yourself.
And one of my protections is this mine? I have to say, like, so you say, please clear me of any energy that doesn't belong to me. And mine is just to simply ask the emotion that I'm feeling. Is this mine? Is this mine? Is this mine? And I mean, I had to do a lot in the beginning with Jeff. I'd be like, Jeff, are you feeling this way? And he'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, cool, that's not mine. Right?
Yeah, totally. And there's so many times that like I'll text a friend because I know it's not mine, and instantly they'll come into I think I've even done this to you, right? They'll come into my thought process. And so then I think I sent you a voice note recently and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel like this, maybe I'm supposed to check on you for a second, like what's happening. But I'll do it to other people as well. And I'll say, hey, how's it going over there? Because I'll connect to something that I know is not mine. And then all of a sudden that person will come into my mind and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's yours. There it is. It's not mine.
Such a fun game, right? Like, mine, not mine. It's like, oh, it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle piece. Look at the puzzle of my day. And like, where do all these emotions fit?
Yeah.
Which, I'm making, light of it, but it can be overwhelming and it can be very confusing sometimes. And it can be scary even when you have a denser or a heavier feeling, or you have like a headache, or like, I was angry, really angry, like rageful one time. And I'm not normally a rageful person until I got on that call and I could feel that person's rage. But I was like, it was hard for me to be in that experience.
And I think the scary part too is if you have part of that emotion, right? Like if you are somewhat in a depressive situation and you're feeling down about what's happening, and then you're attaching to somebody who is depressed, and so you're amplifying something you already feel, it is super overwhelming to all of a sudden, because your instinct isn't, oh, this isn't mine. Like, at least if you're not an angry person and all of a sudden you start raging, you're like, wait a minute, something's not right here. But if you are amplifying an emotion you actually already feel, it's really hard to discern, like, is this mine or not mine? Because your instinct wants to go, oh my God, I did this. This is mine. I'm having a really bad day, you know, and you want to take it on because you're just not really sure, is it yours or not yours?
Very good point. Thank you for that one, because it's true. And so it becomes a practice, right? Like you have to get it into a habitual practice versus just something you do in like, what's the word I want to say? Maintenance. Like if you're just reactive to it, like, oh, this one or whatever, but it becomes like a daily whatever. Even if you're not feeling anything, just think about what you're feeling right now. Is this mine? Oh, of course. Okay, keep going. But like it just becomes
Yeah. And it's funny because when I started doing Reiki, like I had a whole practice, right? So I would wash my hands before, I would go into the treatment room, I would say a whole thing before I started Reiki to connect to somebody, I would rub my hands together, like there was a whole process. And so, and again, I started it in October. So by like December, January, where it's cold and it's snowing, and I just would be outside randomly and rub my hands together, I would activate Reiki like instantly, because I had developed such a process where this meant do that to my body, to my energy. It just started doing it. So in the beginning, it is a practice that you have to be consciously aware that you're doing. But the more you do it, the more you practice it, your body just instinctively does it. Energetically, you just start to take it on. And yes, moments still creep in where you're like, oh, is this mine? No, it's actually not. And stuff creeps in on you. But out of 100 times, maybe you only get 5, right? Like it's a totally different thing, but it is totally a conscious practice to start with.
Yeah, it's everything takes work until it doesn't.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So if people are listening and they're like, damn, yeah, I am needing some support and Corrie Corrigan is speaking my language and I am like, oh, I need that in my life. Everybody needs Corrie Corrigan in their life. So I highly recommend reaching out. Where would they go to find you, Corrie?
Most of my time is spent Instagram and Facebook. So just Corrie Corrigan on Instagram or Facebook. And then, or my website, corriecorrigan.ca. Keep it simple. Corrie Corrigan. Corrie
Corrigan. So yes. Corrie, Lorian, Corrigan is like, I had to put it one more time.
I'm going to change all my platforms to include that middle name. Yeah.
And my last question for you is, what does being a rebel unicorn mean to you?
It means living the way that I want to live. Like, it's funny because there's a lot of conversations that I've had about, how we're taught to live in the box. We're taught to be a part of the mold. Our education system, every part of every system that exists teaches us how to be like everybody else, how to do what everybody else does. Being a rebel unicorn is actually just being you. Just own your shit and be who you are and love it on all levels. Good, bad, or indifferent. You are who you are and you are fantastic.
Radical self-acceptance. I love it. Thank you so much for being on the Rebel Unicorns podcast. I love and adore you. And I know that those listening will also feel the same. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you. This has been so much fun.
Wow, that episode was mind-blowing. I hope you had as many ahas listening to it as I had recording it. I would love to see the Rebel Unicorns podcast spread far and wide across the globe, across the universe. So if you want to share it on your social media with something that you found impactful, leave a review, send it to a friend. It would be so deeply appreciated. Also, a little side note, I did recently change my name. I downloaded 1.5 years ago that my name was Avalon Starlight. It was previously my birth name was Tamara Arnold. And if you're interested in learning what your Rebel Unicorn house is, oh yeah, there's a quiz for that. Think Harry Potter, except you're sorted into how you are impacting the world with your Stardust and what energy you're here to shift and change. You can find out your Rebel Unicorn house at www.tamaraarnold.ca/quiz. Let me know, tag me in social media, send the quiz out, and join the Rebel Unicorns Facebook group to be in a community of like-minded spiritual entrepreneurs who understand that when you shift your energy, you transform your business.